Do you have a book inside of you, but you don't know where to start? Today, we're going to talk about how to write it out. Valerie says the key to beginning is to take it out of your head and put it on paper. She says that often your story can help someone else. Valerie also talks about the 5 emotional stages that many experience in writing their book. So please stick around and enjoy the show. Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Coffee with Tea. Today, we're going to talk about writing it out. And what that means is there's a story with all of us that needs to be shared. So I invited Ms. Valerie McDowell to come on here. She is a writer, or an author, writer, editor, and book coach. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Ms. Valerie McDowell. Thank you for being here, Ms. Valerie.
Thank you, Tanya, for having me here. I'm so excited to be here. Like you said, my name is Valerie McDowell. I'm an author, I'm a writer, an editor, and a book coach accelerator. I help you accelerate the process of getting your books done. And I work with writing challenge clients, helping them get their stories told and their books published.
Well, like I said, wonderful to have you here, because I know, like I said, all of us have a story, and I know sometimes we don't dig deep down inside to figure out what it is that we were really want. So before we get into it, how are you dealing with this COVID-19 in the quarantine period?
Well, I think because I do a lot of work in my office with all these lovely books surrounding me that I've actually just been able to focus more. I have about 7 books in process right now, so that keeps me busy.
Wow.
So, going through, working with clients, like this has been my haven. So It actually hasn't affected me that much because, when you work online, I have clients all over the country. So, I haven't physically met most of them, but, we talk, like a couple times a month and we get their books done.
Right. Well, it's amazing. Like you said, you had 7 books in the works?
7 books in the works, and I have published to date 11. So just even in the last year and a half. So it's 11 just since then.
Congratulations. That's an accomplishment.
People have great stories.
Well, how did you actually get started into developing this process of writing books and stuff like that? How did that come about?
Well, I've always been a writer and a lover of books. I've been reading. My mom said I could write since I was 2. I could spell and read and all that since I was 2 years old. So I'm well past that now.
Right.
But I've always loved school, always loved writing. I've written poetry. I actually, for almost 20 years, I worked in a drama ministry at my church, writing plays and skits. So, multiple ways to write the story of the Bible, and writing particularly for clients, for my team, for the actors in the group. I've also always written content for people, not knowing it was called content. And I wrote a lot of resumes for people. That used to be my bartering system. I literally remember getting my house painted in exchange for a resume. And I was like, you gonna paint my house? I was like, okay. I thought that was a bargain to me. But, the thing is, when it's your gift, it just flows easily.
Right.
He liked to paint, I like to write. So, as a friend of mine says, words are my friends. So I have a good time with my words. I actually wrote a poem called My Love Affair with Words. I'll have to share it with you one of these days.
Oh, okay. I would love to hear that. So what is the key to getting started, do you think?
The key to getting started is really to quiet yourself. We live in a world that's so full of noise and lots of things happening all the time, and we're busy people. And, in reference even to your question about the pandemic, this pandemic has slowed the world down. So, just think about all the activities and busyness and traveling and all the things that people will be doing had it not been for this pandemic. People's lives would have still been, traffic would have still been backed up everywhere, and part of that is, you don't have time to think.
Right.
So there's lots of ideas. Many of my clients, people I know, say all the time, oh my God, I want to write a book. People are told they really should write a book. But how do you distill all those things that's going on in your mind? And so what I like to do and work with my clients, particularly for those, who are writing, for instance, a nonfiction book, it's like, well, what is it that you're trying to say? What message are you trying to get out? Or even what transformation do you want someone to have after reading your book? And they often have lots of ideas. And I tell them, we can't put everything in one book, and it may not even just be for one book. You may have multiple books, but let's start with one. And often that main book you have to write, or at least the book you need to write right now, it kind of is coming up inside of you. It's like, I listen, I think I was saying, it's my little superpower. I can listen to your life, like in conversation, as we're just talking, I start hearing where the passion is. I start hearing the energy of what they're saying. And then we start, being able to say, no, this is what you wanted. You may have said you wanted to write about this, but this is what I hear. This is what I'm feeling. I'm feeling this energy around you, around this topic, So that usually helps to distill. And sometimes it's painful, because people have suppressed some things that maybe they didn't want to deal with, but I'm feeling that, or it's an experience they had and they want to help someone else manage that. It might be, I help my kids get scholarships, or, this is how I was able to get this job or move up to the top, or how I left everything. One of my clients wrote a book called I Quit, and what she quit was, having to explain herself to people, having to apologize for things, and not the normal I quit, but just like I quit having to come up with reasons why I can't be myself. And I thought that was just such a powerful thing.
That is.
Yeah. So getting to that one topic, at least that main topic for that book, is always, about getting quiet and hearing, because people talk, but they're not listening, especially they're not listening to themselves.
Right. So it's like, would you say like journaling has been a great source? Like, do you recommend people just journaling their thoughts first, or how do you?
Well, I give them an exercise oftentimes, where you kind of mind mapping. Journaling is excellent. I'm a journaler. I take a lot of time. Meditation, just so you can, and particularly if you do it at the beginning of the day before you get assaulted with everything on your to-do list, so journaling, mind mapping, where you just write down everything you're thinking about. And let's see, are there any connections? What's happening? Where do these things link, if they link at all? But really writing it down, because there's a scripture that says, write the vision, make it plain. Until you write it down, you can't see it. It's just in your head. And so many people come to me and say, oh my God, I really want to write a book, but it's all in my head. I literally wrote something years ago called It's All in My Head, but I had to get it out. It's not going to benefit anyone as long as it stays in your head. So part of my coaching is to get it out of you,
Right. Anyway, so I mean, when people come to you, do they already know that they have a book, or how do you start that process to get that book, their book started? I mean, do they come to you, or do you just, how do you find your clients and stuff like that?
My clients, a lot of them come from social media.
Oh, okay.
I do a live every Wednesday called Write It Out. And so people find me there. I have some referrals, but a lot of people mainly see me online. I was challenged a year ago, and this is into my first full year, but last Wednesday was my 1-year anniversary of going live on Write It Out. I just made it up. I actually said it where I called it that because I was in a Zumba class, Walk It Out, that song, Walk It Out. And so I wrote just a little thing that spoke about how much fun I had with that. But how about if we write it out? And someone heard it. They were like, you really should do something about that. And they were like, no, I mean, really. And then I was like, okay. So that's how Write It Out, became a thing. And I've been doing it every Wednesday since 2019 at 9:30 p.m. Okay. So I go live. I do usually like a 12 noon kind of like, hey, what's going on out there? You joining me tonight? So give a little preview of what I might be talking about that day. And so, but, you being consistent actually is also part of the process. That a lot of times people want to write a book, but they don't want to do the work involved, and everyone is not a writer, so that's why I do editing, and I actually also provide ghostwriting services. So, and for some clients, I literally tell them, we're going to record you. We're just going to let you talk, because many people are better talkers than they are writers. You know, everybody can talk, especially if they're talking about themselves. So getting people, you know, to record their book is another option if you can't write.
Oh, I've never heard of that. So, I mean, that's another viable option. I've never really heard it. So the ghostwriting is they talk it out and you write it out, or is that like—
because you have to get their story, you know, like I can totally make up something. As Shonda Rhimes says, I make up stuff for a living. But, you know, in order for it to be your story and your voice, I kind of need to interview you and get, you know, your take, because I am proud of the fact that I'm able to publish books in author's voice. You know, that, you know, even the editing that I do, that's just standard. You know, you always want someone to go through your book and make sure, you know, it's clean. But all my clients say, this sounds like me, or people say, hey, you sound like that. Like if we were to do audio, they would hear the author's voice in it because it sounds like them.
Right, right. So I know, okay. So is it the hardest book is the first book? Does it get easier after the first book, or is
it depends on the topics. But once you do it that first time, then, you know, because there's so many emotions involved in that. I did a live, I'm trying to remember my 5 points, I should have wrote it down, but it was like, you know, first there's excitement, the first point of writing a book, like, oh, I'm so excited, I want to write my book, you know, when you finally commit to getting it done. So there's excitement, then there's momentum, like you're rolling, you know, you're getting stuff done, like I give you a schedule and you're hitting your benchmarks and everything. And then there's dread. Like, what on earth was I thinking? Why did I tell this woman I was going to write a book? I don't want to write a book. Oh my God. Like, and then every imaginable distraction comes up. You know, you're typing one day and you're like, wow, do I need to paint this room? You know, like the carpet is filthy, like everything. Like let me put a load of laundry in. I mean, you'll come up with every excuse not to write. But then there's a process, the fourth step, I call it, where it's panic. And panic, but it's a good panic, because usually that's about the time when I share with them some draft covers for their book. Right. And that's when it really hits them, like, oh my God, like my book, it's almost done. And I was like, yeah, and your name's on it and everything. The title we came up with, like, it's a real thing. Like, we haven't been doing this for nothing.
Right, right.
And I think that's just such a great moment, because it's like, you know, a revelation, like, oh my God, I can't believe we've done this. And then the final thing is refreshing or renewal, you know, where they're like, okay, we got to finish this. So it's a great process, and I've seen it over and over again, but I just love to see clients get to that finished product.
Wow. Wow. I'd love to get there eventually. I know, probably with you, I know I probably will.
You absolutely will. I'm not having no unfinished books. Like, all the books on my shelf behind me are finished, okay?
Right. So how important is it to share your story? I mean, do you feel like I said, not everybody is a writer, but there's ways to get your book out?
Exactly. And I do say this thing often, that, you know, we all have a story and it's time to tell it. You know, so many times that even if it's not, you know, a 200-page book, or, you know, many books are not, you know, but just even if it's just your life, you just want to share your life with someone. You want to leave a legacy. You know, I've had some clients who are older now who are like, I just want to leave something for my grandchildren. Like, they don't know what I went through. They don't know my life before them, especially if you don't live close or you don't talk a lot. You know, that for some clients, it's a legacy, you know, or it's just a big goal. Like, you know, I'm a breast cancer survivor. You know, I have stories about that. You know, so there's some people, it's like, you know, this is how I went through it. You know, this is how I've overcome. And oftentimes your story can help someone else. Right. You know, that everything you go through is not for you, I say. You know, everything you go through is not for you. So be free, you know, release that out of you so you can experience something new to share.
Right. Well, Valerie, what's the one thing you really want to leave the listeners with?
What do I want to leave with? That's a great question. I think that you really should, you know, think about that story. Think about that experience that you've had in life that transformed you. You know, sometimes it was a painful experience, but now that you're on the other side of it, you're like, wow, you know, look what I've been able to accomplish. Look what I've been able to go through. You know, you might have been a teen mom, or you might have been divorced, or, you know, something tragic. You know, you might have lost your job over and over again, like, but now you know, or that propelled you to start your own business. Like, there's so many stories that people need to hear. And the thing is, don't ever think that, but it's so many books and there's so many people with so many stories. You know that whenever you meet someone new, you're like, wow, like they're amazing. Like, who are these people? And you do it over and over again. Like when you have an open mind, then you find out that the commonality of our lives are the experiences that we have one with another. And so sharing your story and getting it in print, it's such a powerful medium, like I'm an author, like here's my book.
Right.
It's like you lose a business card, but you're not going to lose a book.
Right. And I know a lot of people don't get rid of books, even if they're horrible books. They never throw out books.
Exactly. They're like, I can at least give it to someone. Or like, I have books I reread all the time. Like I have A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, one of the earliest books, I remember reading, I read it like every now and then. I just pull it. Or if I'm traveling, like, let me just read this. I was like 10 or 12 years old reading that book, but I loved it.
Right. My last question is, what's the biggest myth of writing a book that a lot of people don't understand? Like, for instance, that you have to be a reader to write a book, or what's some of the biggest myths that you heard that people will say, a book's not for me?
I would say that it's too hard to do. So many people, put writing a book like way up here, when it's like, it takes a team often to do everything that we do in life.
Right.
Someone helped you come out your mom's womb. So you didn't just, unless you just fell out, whereas we got some, but it usually takes several people to help you even come into this world, and it's the same with a book. It's like, don't feel like you have to do it all yourself, because that's what makes it unattainable. If you're just like, I have to do all the writing, I have to do all of this, I have to do, if you keep putting all that weight just on you, but just think, what part can I do? Who else can help me get this done?
Right.
It's just like, raising your children, starting a new job. Who can I, connect with on this new job to help me be a better employee? What skill do I need when you go to school? I need a teacher. I need friends. I need all these things. I need support. I might need a tutor. It's like, don't ever think that you have to do everything by yourself. It's like, that's why I have many different hats I wear. And I have a team that works with me. Like, I'm a creative person, but I don't do the layout and design anymore, because I need to focus on helping my client, get through these processes.
I love it. I never even thought about that. I guess it's a myth in my head, right? So, Ms. Valerie, where can people find more information about you and your services and how to get their book started?
Oh, great. You can find me, Valerie McDowell. My website is www.power2xl.com. That's power2xl.com. Or you can find me on Facebook. My Facebook business name is Book Coach Accelerator. Okay, Excel, EXCEL-orator, okay? Accelerator. So you can find me there, and you can find me there every Wednesday night at 9:30 p.m. where I'll be doing Write It Out.
All right, well, thank you. Also, I want to also include that Ms. Valerie gave me a good question of the day. So here's our question of the day. And she had to correct me on this. What book do you have in mind? Again, Ms. Valerie wanted to put out the question, and now I came out, what book do you have in mind? Please put that in the comments and stuff and let us know, what book do you have in mind? And Ms. Valerie, I want to thank you for being here. It was a wonderful time talking to you.
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to be on your show. It's been a pleasure.
And I also want to remind everyone that all of Valerie's comments will be posted in the link, so you can always just tap and find her in our comments. Feedback is always welcomed, and emails if you have any guests or show ideas. And Ms. Valerie, thank you for being here. It was a pleasure talking to you. I would love to have you come back as a guest.
I would love to come back. This has been fun.
Remember too, also to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, take things in stride. Go with the flow and create your own path. And again, thank you for tuning into this episode of Coffee with Tea. We'll see you back here next time. All right? Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Hi everyone, this is Tanya popping in again to say thank you for listening to today's show. Coffee with Tea interviews are always free, and if you're enjoying the wisdom and insights that's being shared, please consider showing your support. By all means, buy me a coffee or become a supporter. Links are posted in the comments. And again, thank you for tuning in.